Hi guys, my name's Mia Sudinsky and I attend Elmwood High School. You may know me because I am a cheerleader at Elmwood. I cheer for varsity at Elmwood High School's basketball. Today I'm going to be reading a book, and the book's name is Digging for Dinosaurs by Judy Waite and Gary Parsons. Digging for Dinosaurs. Dan was reading his favorite book. I want to dig for dinosaurs, he said suddenly. Dan's dog, Bouncer, bounced over to him. Dan ruffled Bouncer's ears. Let's start in the backyard, he said. Don't get muddy, warned Dan's mom. I've planned a trip to the museum. Dan didn't answer. He knew he'd hate the museum. Museums were musty, smelly, and dusty. Soon Dan was digging a deep, dark hole. I'm going 225 million years deep, he told Bouncer. He felt a bubble of excitement. Wouldn't it be great to really find a dinosaur? He wondered if he'd recognize it. Bouncer scratched at the edge of the hole. A sprinkle of mud slipped back into it. Don't do that, groaned Dan. I've just dug down to the Cretaceous period. I might be about to find the remains of a terrible Tyrannosaurus rex that would swallow a boy in just 2 bites. The hole grew deeper and darker. Dan found a stone, like an odd sort of bone. But he didn't find the remains of a terrible Tyrannosaurus rex that could swallow a boy in just 2 bites. Dan's mom called to him. We're going in 10 minutes. Dan growled. His grumpiest Tyrannosaurus growl. He threw the odd-looking stone for Bouncer to chase. Museums were boring, like old people snoring. Bouncer came bouncing back. He dropped the stone into the hole. A slither of mud trickled down on top of it. Don't do that, groaned Dan. I've just dug down to the Jurassic period. I might be about to find the remains of a gigantic Brachiosaurus that was taller than the tallest trees. Dan kept on digging. The hole grew deeper and darker. Dan found a peg and a pin and a scrunched-up old tin. But he didn't find the remains of a gigantic Brachiosaurus that was taller than the tallest trees. I hope you're not getting too mucky, called his mom. We're going in 5 minutes. Dan stamped his foot like a bad-tempered Brachiosaurus. He threw the odd-looking stone for Bouncer to chase. Museums were sleepy, crummy, and creepy. Bouncer came bouncing back. He dropped the stone into the hole again. A scattering of mud rolled down on top of it. Don't do that, groaned Dan. I've just dug all the way down to the Triassic period. I might be about to find the remains of a crazy Colophysis that had knife-sharp teeth and sometimes ate its own young. Oh, that's creepy. Dan kept on digging. The hole grew deeper and darker. Dan found an old plate and the key to a gate, but he didn't find the remains of the crazy Colophysis that had knife-sharp teeth and sometimes ate its own young. Dan's mom appeared suddenly. You're covered in mud, she said angrily. Go inside and get cleaned up. It's time to go. Dan made his craziest Colossus's face. He threw the odd-looking stone for Bouncer to chase. Museums were old, crusty, and cold. Bouncer came bouncing back. He dropped the stone into the hole again. A shower of mud pattered down on top of it. Come on, Dan, said his mom. Dan growled and stamped and gnashed his dinosaur teeth. Then he turned to Bouncer. Go on, bury your bone in my hole. Digging for dinosaurs was a stupid idea anyway. He stomped away into the house. In the bathroom, Dan stared into the mirror. He had a front tooth missing, and he stuck his tongue through the gap. Then he practiced his angry dinosaur face in the mirror. Dan's mom peered around the door. Hurry up, she grumbled. Dan's mom drove to the museum. Dan looked out of the back window and imagined a world full of dinosaurs. He pictured them wandering wild among vast mountains and plains. He heard snorts, he heard roars. He saw great grabbing claws. We're here, said Dan's mom, pulling into the museum parking lot. Dan trailed behind his mom into the museum. When he got inside, he was surprised. No one was bored, nobody snored, no one was sleepy, nothing seemed creepy. It wasn't cold, and it wasn't old. It was all fresh and new, with zillions to do. It had fossils and stones, and some very large bones. Dan stared and stared at the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Monster-sized questions rose up inside of his mind. How fast could it run? How loud did it roar? What would it be like to see those giant jaws really begin to open? Just look at those fearsome fangs, said Dan's mom. There's one missing, cried Dan. It's got a gap in its mouth, just like me. Dan could see the sort of shape the missing tooth would be. He could see the sort of size the missing tooth would be. He gave his mom his most gigantic dinosaur smile. I've had a great time, but we have to go home. I've got to dig up an odd-looking stone. He's going home with this dog to dig up more.